Welcome, BMP Nation, to another episode of the Based Marriage Podcast. Thank you to all you faithful subscribers, and welcome to all those of you who are listening for the first time. Make sure to check out the BMP Nation Facebook community. It's a place to have a conversation, ask questions about your relationships, to get a little bit of help. We're actually going to work on something a little more anonymous. Might be a good word for it. Private group, hopefully. Anyways, we're getting there. So I saw another one of these posts the other day from a Christian man. He runs The Pillar. His name is J.D. Flynn. God bless him. You know, I stayed at J.D. Flynn's house one time when he was a college student at Steubenville. He lived in the hood, and I don't know if he's going to mind. We're not friends. We had, social media lends itself to people of differing emotional states and differing political values to just blow up friendships. God bless him. He seems like a pretty nice guy, and I commend him tremendously for having adopted 2 children with Down syndrome. And we were in communication then when he adopted the second one. Basically, the hospital called and said, "Hey, we know you already adopted a first child with Down syndrome. Would you be interested in adopting a second one?" And then he said, "Yeah, sure. When?" And they said, "Right now." So they went down to the hospital and picked up a second child who not only had Down syndrome, but also, I believe it was a girl, she had leukemia at the time. So God bless J.D. Flynn. That's a pretty big deal. Really opened his heart to that situation. He's got a lot of courage. So I'm not trying at all in any way, shape, or form to attack his character by reading his Twitter post. I just saw this. It happened to be by him, but it wasn't because of him. But it fits in with that Charlie Kirk episode that we did a long time ago. Flynn says, "I'm tired of reading, quote, Tate only exists because young men don't have models of masculinity," end quote. Flynn says, "Tate exists because self-indulgence and self-centeredness always sell. Hey, young men, want to be men? Put yourselves last day after day. Love without counting costs. Deny yourself." What is that? The MGTOW March Madness sale at your local MGTOW dealer. That's an excellent selling point for getting men to go their own way. It sounds awful. Put yourselves last day after day, day after day. For one, show me anywhere in Scripture that is the case. Show me anywhere in the history of the Catholic tradition, Catholic faith, Catholic teaching, that men are supposed to put themselves last. There's again, and Flynn did not come up with this, but there is a distortion of Ephesians 5 that basically means that Christ gave his life up, but that's interpreted by many people to mean they're just focusing on his death, that him dying is what we're supposed to do. We're just supposed to die. In every little thing that we want, we just die. And I talked about this maybe last episode or a couple of episodes ago about opportunity costs. And that when you give up something for another thing, so like Christ gave up something, he had an opportunity cost for his ministry. That was the thing that he gave up when he chose to go into ministry. And yes, Christ had a choice to go into ministry or not to go into ministry. He had a choice. He wasn't just an automaton or lacking in choice about the matter. He had a choice. And so when he went into ministry, there were opportunity costs. He could have gotten married, had kids, lived a long, fulfilling life. He could have just decided to go be a fisherman. There were other things that he could have chosen. And so that's a better interpretation, a better understanding, a more fuller, complete understanding of what it means to give your life up for the church. Give your life up for your wife. It means you're giving up the opportunity costs of being able to date other women, be in relationships with other women, the opportunity cost of getting to go backpacking, mountain climbing, whitewater rafting, all of those things anytime that you want to. It doesn't mean that you're giving them up forever or that you're giving them up completely. It just simply means that you are giving up the availability to just go do that at the drop of a hat and have no concern or need to have concern for the well-being of a wife and children because you don't have them. There was another tweet that I saw. It was from a guy who says, the headline is, I have just left my wife and stepkids, and I am delighted. No more shitty vacations because the kids will enjoy it there. No more shitty restaurants because the kids don't like that food. No more can't do this because of the kids. No more nightly beige food festivals because that's what the kids like. No more ungrateful taxi service. No more poverty. No more being a cleaner, servant, banker. I can do whatever I like with whoever I like, whenever I like. I am officially out and I am over the moon. Never again. So this guy married a single mother. But basically, this very well illustrates opportunity costs. A man who is single, who does not get married, the opportunity costs are he can go on vacation wherever he wants to. He can go eat wherever he wants to. He can cook whatever he wants to. He can go to whatever activities he wants to. He can see whoever he wants to. And he doesn't have to worry about the ungratefulness either. He's not just a provider to them. But that's what gets lost in this you come last. It's what material wealth and comfort can you give to your wife and children? Now, I don't know necessarily that J.D. Flynn sat and thought about this all the way through and the repercussions of what he's saying, because the guy has really put himself, at least to my knowledge, in that charitable way of taking in 2 kids that have Down syndrome, one of whom had leukemia. That's a pretty big deal. I don't know what his marriage looks like. I don't know what his personal life looks like on a day-to-day basis. But when each time that we go through and flesh this out a little bit, it does not seem to stick well. Really and truly, Andrew Tate does exist because young men don't have models of masculinity. I know he's tired of reading it. I know a lot of people are tired of reading it. It's the truth. The older generation isn't calling the younger generation to be something better. They're pissing on them. Boomers dump on millennials. How does it feel to be a millennial? Pretty shitty. I guess I'm what they're calling, it's a micro generation, the Zennials or the Centennials or I don't even remember. Anyways, we're in between Generation X and millennials because I was born in 80, and so I didn't grow up with the internet, but it got there around 14 years old. So I'm not fully a millennial, and I'm on the tail end of Generation X, but I don't quite identify with them either. So Andrew Tate exists because men are going, yeah, you know what? Being strong for strong's sake is fine. Yeah, being strong because it puts you in a hierarchy of physicality, that's an important thing. Yes, this guy, while he's using pretty severe language to call men to that, he's not saying, do this because you're a loser and I hate you. He's saying, do this because you're better than what you are now. You can be so much better than what you are now. Get out of what you are now and be that something better. That's the general message of Andrew Tate. We don't have that in the Catholic Church. We don't have that of our bishops. The one bishop that's out there doing it, Bishop Strickland, God bless him. He was my bishop. The one bishop that is out there, is getting pissed on by the rest of the church. He's getting pissed on by Rome. They haven't even given him a reason why they got rid of him. And there was the recent installation of Bishop Kelly. I don't know him. I hope he's a great guy. I've heard he's a great guy. I hope that he's good for our diocese. But he had Cardinal DiNardo and Bishop Kelly and a whole bunch of other bishops there, and Bishop Strickland was not invited. Bishop Strickland was not there. Well, I don't know if he was invited, but he wasn't there. And so there was kind of this really heavy quality to the air. I watched part of it online. I wasn't there personally, but there's this kind of heavy thing like Strickland wasn't invited. Strickland's not there. They're kind of sort of a ignoring that happened, or a dancing on the grave sort of an issue. But these men are not courageous. Many of these men are pudgy. Many of these men are very feminine. They don't even embrace Catholic values, Catholic beliefs. They're very touchy-feely. They love the singing and the dancing and the hand motions and all that stuff. That's not masculine. So if you're looking in the Catholic Church, we generally, if we're looking for models of masculinity in the Catholic Church, we have to look to dead guys. saints, but they're all dead. They're all dead. They're in heaven, so they've got eternal life, but we don't get to see them with our own eyes, living and acting and talking. We have dead guys, pictures of dead guys. But there's nobody living right now that's really giving us a good model of masculinity, a good model of courage. And a lot of the men that are public or they're vocal, a lot of podcasters, you have the evil that is done by wicked people out in the world. And then when good men try to do something to stop that, the Catholic men dump on the good men and say, whoa, 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 you're going too far. We don't need to be doing that. Instead of actually spending all of their time addressing that evil, they're tempering the reactions of Catholics toward that evil. And it's a form of virtue signaling. It's saying, well, no, I'm better than you because I recognize that this could end up in a problem. And so we're just not going to do it anyway. They're conflict avoidant, but there's a virtue signaling in that as well. And that's extraordinarily tiresome. We don't have strong, courageous men who are willing to take a hit, except for Bishop Strickland. That was pretty fantastic. He was willing to take a hit to not have the traditional Latin Mass shut down in the Diocese of Tyler. God bless him. He was willing to take a hit for that. I mean, who else is there? There's Andrew Tate. There's Jocko Willink. That's great. I don't know if Jocko is doing shorts, if he's accessible. Andrew Tate's talking to you. He's talking to the viewer. Jocko Willink is talking to his co-host. It has a different dynamic to it. But Jocko Willink also stays outside of the political and the moral. Whereas Andrew Tate will get involved in the political and the moral. Basically, the guy's willing to go to jail for righteous causes, but they're not arresting him for righteous causes, whatever. Anyways, all we have in the Catholic Church is pudgy guys and guys that are basically hall monitors. So that's why Andrew Tate exists. He does. You can be tired of reading that Tate only exists because young men don't have models of masculinity. And guess what? The other part is put yourselves last day after day. That sounds like it sucks. If you told me, okay, when you get married, every time that she's tired, every time she doesn't want to do dishes, every time your kid cries, throws up, all the rest, you're just going to have to give up sleep. Yeah, you're both tired, but you have to work tomorrow, but it doesn't matter that you have to work tomorrow. Your wife's tired too, so let her go to sleep so that she will be well rested to do something the next day, to do her duties the next day, but you're going to have to stay up with the kids all night to put yourself last. All of your desires, your wants, the things that you would like to do, you put last. That sounds like it sucks. You never get to go where you want to go for vacation because your family would rather go somewhere else. They're not going to enjoy it as much. That's putting yourself last. Well, I'd really like to go to the steakhouse for my birthday. Well, I understand that, honey, but the kids don't like steak. They don't like the food at the steakhouse. So we're going to go to somewhere else, Chuck E. Cheese. I know you want to, but this is what the kids want. Those two posts are essentially the same. And there are many men who really enjoy giving to their families, and that's great and everything. They enjoy watching their kids have fun at Chuck E. Cheese. Fantastic. But when you're putting the thumb screws to guys, when you're really imposing this mentality, put yourselves last day after day, you're making it a condition. You're forcing men to do that. You're shaming them for not doing that. That's not a great sales technique for marriage. It's actually not true. It's not based on Catholicism. It's not based in Scripture, which is Catholicism. It's based on feminism. It is. You exist to provide for your wife and kids. We've talked about this in probably every single episode. You do not exist to provide for your wife and kids. Your job is secondary. It's not even a vocation, as we've talked about. You can read that in the comments video or watch that in the comments video. Your vocation. The priesthood is a vocation. Being a lawyer is a vocation. Being a teacher is a vocation. All of these primary duties, primary missions that God has created you, that is a vocation. Marriage is a state. It's not a vocation. It wasn't referred to as a vocation until John Paul II. And before that, it was referred to as a vocation by Protestants. It's a Protestant notion that marriage is a vocation. It's a state. It's a marriage state. Like singleness is a state, but it's not a vocation. But men, you have value. You provide a life to your wife and kids that she could never provide for herself. You provide a life to your wife that she could never provide for herself, which is to be a stay-at-home mom, or at least to not have to work so stinking hard to provide the life that you provide for her, or to be able to be a stay-at-home mom, or to be able to only work part-time and still get the same vehicles that you have provided with your work, or the same home, or all the same luxuries. Not having to shop at Goodwill for her clothing. You provide a life for her that she could never provide for herself. You provide a life for your kids that they could never provide for themselves. You provide a life for your kids that your wife could never provide for them. You provide tremendous value. Ephesians 5 just says, love your wives as you love yourself. That's the part after most people stop reading. Most people stop reading, and husbands, love your wives as Christ loves the church, giving his life up for it. They don't continue on beyond that to see, love your wives as you love your own body. So love her. Be good to her in what she needs. That doesn't mean saving her from hardship all the time. If you're saving her from hardship all the time, you're putting yourself last, but you're actually enabling her to be emotionally immature and to not do her duties. Love without counting costs. Yes. Deny yourself. Why? Deny yourself maybe in the opportunity costs. If I get married, I can't go date other women. I can't just go at the drop of a hat and go whitewater rafting every weekend. But putting yourselves day after day, putting yourselves last day after day after day, that is a distortion of what a man brings in terms of value. It puts it back onto, you are only valuable in what you do for other people. It's performance-based. It's transaction-based. Performance-based love is not love. You are only valuable in as much as you do stuff for me. It's performance-based love. And performance-based love really messes people up, messes kids up. It turns them into millionaires a lot of times with tremendous anxiety. And they cannot get out of that millionaire mentality where they say, hang on, I can be loved just for existing. They get stuck in the I am only loved in what I can provide to other people in terms of financial gain, financial value, or material value. That's not love. The other people are not loving them in the process. They're saying, you're only worth loving because of what you can provide to me. That's what's echoing in this post from J.D. Flynn. God bless J.D. Flynn. It is okay to love yourself. It's okay to not put yourself last all the time. The other thing about putting who first and last, it's a continuation of that obsession with power. That one has to be above another in terms of whose needs come first and whose needs come last. And it's very common that people who are content creators for a living seem to hold this mindset. Who is the other one? So Charlie Kirk, and then also Trent Horn was the other one. Put yourselves last. Trent Horn was the other one. You're supposed to give 100% when you get home. So it's guys that are not doing physical labor as their work. I'm not a content creator. This is a hobby. My public face is not what I make my money on. And yeah, I sit in a chair all day. I've done the manual labor a lot in the past. But I do sit in a chair all day. But what I do is very difficult. It's extraordinarily difficult. So when I leave my office and I walk 27 steps to the kitchen, I don't go in there and go, all right, so let me do the dishes and let me help cook and what else can I do? What else can I do? No. It's okay for my wife to do the dishes. It's okay for my wife to cook. It's okay for my wife to kind of scramble around a little bit to try to get things done. It's okay for her to have hardship. It's okay for me to recognize that I have hardship too. It's okay for me to recognize that I just had a rough day mentally. It was a very exhausting day doing the work that I do. And it's okay for me to go sit down and try to relax and calm my mind and get a little recharge before I jump back into it. Is that putting myself last? No. Is there anything that says that it's not okay for me to do that? Well, if your wife is she's trying to feed the toddler and okay, great. She's spinning a number of plates at the same time. That's perfectly fine. That is part of her job. I do that in a bunch of other ways throughout the day. She doesn't see them because they're in my office. But she doesn't have a monopoly on hard work. She doesn't have a monopoly on scrambling to try and fix things. She has her own duties. She has her own job. I have every right to go sit down and try to calm down and calm my mind, clear my mind, let go of all the stuff from the day so I can be present to my family. I have every right to. I don't have to work myself into a heart attack or a stroke. There's no obligation to do that. There's no Christian basis for this. There's a feminist basis for this, that people like to distort Ephesians chapter 5 to make it say, men, you exist to essentially kill yourself for your wife. So if you still have a little bit of energy left, keep going until you drop dead. Now, Flynn didn't say that, but that's essentially what's implied in this. Put yourselves last day after day. Love without counting costs. Deny yourself. That's what Charlie Kirk implies. That's what Trent Horn implies. That's what all these guys imply in saying, put yourself last, oh, you're tired? Well, what is she? You got to go in there and keep doing dishes. You got to go sweep the floor, mop the kids, help take care of the kids. She's having a rough time. You got to help her. No. No, you don't. You'll take care of her in time. You will help her in time, but it is okay for a woman to struggle. It's okay for a woman to be stressed. She's not being stressed all day long. It happens to be right then at that particular moment while you just came home from work and she is working on dinner and there are kids around being kids. It's okay for her to struggle. It's okay for you to not save her from it. She has duties. You have duties. Modern women can't handle a lot of duties. They don't embrace their duties. They fall apart. Then they gripe at you for not helping them in the middle of their duties. And remember, we can't use women and their emotions as a barometer for whether something is right or wrong, because their emotions are fleeting. Emotions are fleeting. It's not intellectual. Intellectual is something you can know and validate and understand and say, no, this is objectively this way. But a woman's emotions are not to be used as a barometer. Her being upset is not a barometer for whether or not you've done something right or wrong. Does she come into your office and go, oh, honey, you're really frazzled today. You had a really tough customer. Here, let me fix that. Let me take the phone from you and I'll handle with that customer for you. No, it's ridiculous. She doesn't come save you from those things. A lot of them will not even offer to save you from those things. She knows that those are your duties. That's your job. She might be sweet and say, I would do that for you if I could, knowing that she can't. But it's a sweet thing to say. But a lot of them don't. They recognize, rightly, that those are your duties. But they're very, very quick to pawn off their duties onto you when they're difficult. They say that men have become weak, but women have become very weak too. Men have become soft. Andrew Tate is trying to do something to make men stronger, and I am not a big Tate fan. I think his whole polygamy thing, he has serious mommy and daddy issues. It's very obvious. And it causes him to, we shouldn't embrace Andrew Tate as this great thing, but this is why young men gravitate toward Andrew Tate, is because there's not really anyone else out there who's helping. The boomers are dumping on them all the time. Andrew Tate is trying to make something better of them, kind of like David Goggins does. but Andrew Tate is speaking specifically for them. Andrew Tate created an online college, for lack of a better word, where young men can go and learn these skills from other guys who have succeeded in business, in sales, in online content creating, like online marketing. So he's created a place so that young men are able to go and get better jobs, to get out of this crazy, go to college and then you graduate and you have a ton of debt and you don't really have a job yet. Getting them out of that cycle, getting them to the place where they can make money very quickly compared to if they went to college. To reduce Andrew Tate down to self-indulgence and self-centeredness is completely missing the point. He's not about self-indulgence and self-centeredness. He engages in a lot of self-indulgence and self-centeredness. That's not all that's there. And to say that Tate exists because self-indulgence and self-centeredness always sell is to say that, well, basically all young men are just only interested in self-indulgence and self-centeredness. And we know that that is not the case. We know that young men are looking for something greater than self-indulgence and self-centeredness. That's what older generations have. And we're not happy about it because they did not do a good job of taking care of their children. They ignored their children for their own needs, and the children are growing up saying, I want something else of meaning. I want something of meaning. I want something that's bigger than myself. But saying, nope, you're last, day after day, that's not going to do it. Andrew Tate is a mixed bag, just like I am, just like J.D. Flynn is, just like everybody else is. He's got his bad, he's got his good. And some of his bad is really bad. And maybe it outweighs the good that he's doing. But the ability to look at somebody, even somebody who's wicked, and go, there's some value there. Let's take the value part and extract that. That's a sign of intelligence. You know, it was probably 10 or 15 years ago, I saw a video of World Youth Day, I think it was. And Bishop Strickland accompanied a group of young people, and he was engaged in a push-up contest with a young man, a high school student. I think they got up to 50 or so before Bishop Strickland tanked out. Bishop Strickland, I think at the time, was around 50 years old. 55, 50, something like that. Anyways, when was the last time you saw a bishop doing push-ups? When was the last time you saw a bishop doing exercise? Okay, Bishop Barron, he looks pretty fit. He probably goes to the gym quite a bit. He looks pretty fit. Who else is there? Who else is there? Well, and part of the thing about Bishop Barron is also that when Bishop Barron sat in front of Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro, he did not tell them the Catholic faith. He didn't tell them the Catholic truth about their sin and their religious beliefs. He didn't. He chickened out. So that's one reason that a lot of young men don't look to him, is because twice now, on major shows, lots of publicity, he chickened out in standing for the truth. So you can have big muscles, but cowardice really cancels that out. He's not really also aiming his show exclusively at trying to attract young men and get them to be something better. It's kind of a more general audience that he has. And I suspect a lot of women are also particularly wrapped up in his show, which is fine. But young men and middle-aged women are not generally going to gravitate toward the same thing. And one of the problems that we have on places like Twitter or YouTube, a lot of places, is that if you want to appeal to young men, you're going to get griped at a lot by women, by middle-class, middle-aged liberal women. And they'll just report you over and over and over until your videos or your content gets shut down or what do they call that? Shadow banned. Because they can't handle it on an emotional level, and it's not okay. They're going, it's not okay for this stuff to even exist. It's not enough for them to just ignore it and go, no, I don't want to participate in that. They have to shut it down. And so all the voices that are trying to appeal to young men are getting shut down because women don't like it. They don't like hearing what the young men say. They don't like hearing what appeals to young men because it basically tells young men it's okay for you to have preferences. It's okay for you to say, yeah, I know, kids. Y'all can eat before we go to the restaurant or when we get back, but we're going to go to the steakhouse because I want steak tonight for my dinner. And y'all can just eat before. Or we'll just bring peanut butter sandwiches and you can eat peanut butter sandwiches in the restaurant. It's okay to do that. It's okay to say, you know what? We're going to the beach this year for vacation. I know y'all love the mountains. I really want to go to the beach, and we're going to go to the beach. Did you know that it's important for your family to be told no? It's important for your family to see that it's okay that dad has preferences and that dad chooses where we're going. And that the kid's going, oh, I don't like this. Okay, that's fine. You don't have to like it, but you can't complain. Be done with the complaining. It's okay for you to be taken on vacation someplace that is not your number one favorite place to go. It's okay to be taken on vacation that is not Disneyland. It's okay to go on vacation to the big city when your kids would really rather go to the mountains or to Great Wolf Lodge. You say, yeah, we're not going to go to Great Wolf Lodge this year. We're going to go vacation in Chicago. I don't know if that's a place where people go vacation. I've been there a couple of times. Chicago seemed like a fun place to visit. I wouldn't want to live there, but it seemed like a fun place to visit twice. Or Houston, or Dallas, or San Antonio, or no, I don't want to go there. Yeah, well, you know what? We're going to go. And it's okay. You don't have to like it, but we're all going to be together and it's going to be fine. It is okay for you to have preferences, and it's okay for you to exercise those preferences. And it's important that your kids and your wife learn that it is okay for you to exercise those preferences. Putting yourself last says you don't get to exercise those preferences ever. Why? Show me why. That's just repeating something that's been said over and over, which basically is the idea, the belief that men only exist to make their kids and wives happy. That's your only value, is what they're saying. That's not your only value. You're a human being. You are not a wage slave. You are not a wage slave. You do not exist to make their lives comfortable. It is important for kids to be told no. It's important for kids and wives to be told no. She really wants the new Suburban. You're going to get her a used Honda Odyssey instead. A used Honda Odyssey, but we can afford the Suburban. Yeah, I know we can afford the Suburban. No. We're going to get the used Honda Odyssey. It's okay to tell her no. It's important to tell her no. It's important for her to experience no. And to handle no.
How dare you?
How many times are you told no? And when you're told no, let's say you tell yourself no, which is what he's saying. Tell yourself no, which is great. We should tell ourselves no. We as men oftentimes equate telling ourselves no with growth in holiness and in character. But we're not supposed to tell our wives and children no. Why? If it's good for us, isn't it good for them? Isn't it important for them? Like, men and women are different. They are different. But men and women are both called to humility. And they're called to detachment from material things. That doesn't mean the complete elimination of material things. It just means detachment from material things so that we can have a greater relationship with God. So if telling your wife no, if relieving her from all of her suffering is what you're doing, how is that helping move her to a place of humility, a place of holiness, a place of detachment from material things? If you can't tell your wife no without freaking out, without her freaking out, without her getting upset, she is lacking in holiness. She can't accept the no. She's lacking in holiness and humility. She thinks your job is to say yes to me when I want something. And you're not doing that, so now I'm upset. That's pride. That's self-centeredness. That's self-indulgence. We're supposed to love our wives in that we do what is good for her. Not we take care of all of her needs. We do what is good for her. We're supposed to love her as we love ourselves. That's what Ephesians 5 says after that part where everybody else stops reading. Love without counting the cost. Yes, don't be transactional about love. Absolutely right. Love without counting the costs. I don't think, well, I did this for my kids and this for my kids and this for my kids and this for my wife and this for my wife and this for my wife. Now we got to make it equal. How much am I giving up? Love without counting the cost. Don't count the cost. That is important. But that's separate from put yourselves last day after day. Deny yourself. I'm not getting married if I'm reading this tweet. I'm going to go buy a sailboat and I'm going to get a dog and a Jeep. No, not a Jeep. I'm going to get a big pickup truck. I'm going to buy the house that I want. I'm going to live where I want and I'm going to sleep. I'm going to get up early. And I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to go to bed when I want to. I'm going to go to bed at 9 o'clock and get a full night's sleep. Then I'm going to get up in the morning and go for a run. I don't really run. I'm going to go for a bike ride. On the weekends, I'm just going to take that sailboat out with a dog and we're going to go sailing. I might get a couple of buddies to come with me. Maybe I'll take my buddies and their wives and kids. So that way I have the enjoyment of being around a family, but I don't actually have to take care of my own family. Yeah, I'll be like the fun uncle. That's what I'll do. After reading this, put yourselves last day after day. No. I don't want to do that. And I can be a completely holy person, and it may be even holier than a husband, maybe even holier than I would be if I were a husband who's just going, golly, man, all I do is just give, and that's it. I'm exhausted with this. This is not going well. I'm exhausted, and nobody is grateful about it, and my wife, I'm not Andrew Tate, my wife and kids are just growing in ingratitude. They just keep wanting more. I keep doing more, and they just keep wanting more. It's like I'm spoiling them or something. That doesn't work. Putting yourselves last day after day, denying yourself, continuing to give over and over and over again. It spoils your family. It spoils your wife. It spoils your kids. They start to learn, when I want something, Dad's going to be there to fulfill it. And then that day that you say no, they freak out. It doesn't work well. It is important that wives and kids are told no. Men don't really seem to have a problem with telling themselves no. The problem is that they tell themselves no so frequently that they end up to the point that they're like, forget it, I'm exhausted. Everyone around me is just spoiled and they see me as a well or a mine to extract wealth from. But they only see me as something that provides material wealth and gives them things. They don't see me as a person. So when you're putting yourselves last and you are giving to these, now, like I said, J.D. Flynn has 2 kids that have Down syndrome. So those kids require a significant differing focus of attention. I have a kid who has not Down syndrome. He has something else. He has special needs. And he requires a different commitment. But I'm not exhausting myself, killing myself in taking care of him. He's actually the easiest of the 3 kids, which is great. I love being around him. He's a barrel of fun. He's so chill, but I can go on a trip without him. And when he asks for something like a movie night, I very often just say, no, bud, not tonight. Daddy, can I have this? No. It's gotten to the point that my kids now ask before they ask anything. They say, Dad, are you in a yes mood or a no mood? Yeah, I'm in a no mood right now. So your chances of getting what you're asking for are slim to none. My wife will even ask, are you in a yes mood or a no mood? I'm in a no mood. Pretty much anything you ask is going to get shut down. Oh, I'm in a yes mood. You know, they're used to getting no a lot. It's important for them to get no a lot. It's important for them to realize that Dad has needs. My little girl is going to grow up. She's going to marry a guy. And she's going to have the understanding that he has needs. Look, the Catholic model of marriage is not only hierarchical, where the husband is the head of the household, and he's supposed to lead his family to holiness. Marriage is also for mutual aid. That means you're taking care of each other. Yes, not counting the costs, not measuring to see who does more, but taking care of each other. So she needs to be attuned to her husband. And he is to be attuned to her. But she's not saving him from his difficulties. She might be recognizing them, giving him a shoulder rub, maybe making some food for him when he comes home from work, knowing, God, man, he has a really hard day. but it's being able to put yourself in the other person's shoes, putting yourself in your husband's shoes and recognizing, I see what he goes through all day long, so I don't have to. I want to do something to kind of show him that I am thankful for that. Mutual aid is what marriage is supposed to be about. We help each other. We help each other. And we also recognize that we have our own duties. We have our own difficulties, and we're not going to try to get the other one to save us from those duties, those difficulties. We each have our own thing. We each recognize that we have our own duties and that they're difficult. And so we're not trying to dump them on the other. I'm not trying to dump my difficulties and my duties on my wife, and she is not trying to dump her difficulties and her duties on me. And if I have a couple extra minutes and I've got the energy, and I go, yeah, you know what? I can handle this. Then I'll go and do some dishes. But I'm not going to walk out of the office and go, okay, I'm exhausted. Oh, shoot, the dishes are still there. I got to go do dishes so that she doesn't have to. Oh, my goodness. And then I got to go set the table so that she doesn't have to. And then I got to go round up all the kids so that she doesn't have to. I really got to make my wife's life as easy as possible for her. That's not how that goes. She has her own duties. The kids have their own duties. I have my duties and difficulties. She has her duties and difficulties. We both need to recognize that each has their own duties and difficulties, and it's not the other's job to save them from it. St. Paul himself says, 2 Timothy, maybe, that child rearing is the path to holiness for a woman. Having babies and raising them, which is difficult, is a path to holiness for a woman. All right, that's what I have for today. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure, if you've made it this far, that you hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Remember, it's March Madness sale at your local MGTOW dealer. All right, JD Flynn, if you ever hear of this, and you probably won't because you're way bigger than this podcast, I hope you have a great day. God bless you and your family. And thank you, BMP Nation, for another episode of the Base Marriage Podcast. God bless you as well.